can change the world with my own two hands. Make it a better place with my own two hands. Make it a kinder place with my own two hands. With my own two hands. I can make peace on earth with my own two hands. I can clean up the earth with my own two hands. I can reach out to you with my own two hands. With my own two hands. With my own two hands. Gonna make it a brighter place with my own two hands. Gonna make it a safer place with my own two hands. Gonna help the human race with my own two hands. With my own two hands. With my own two hands. I can hold you with my own two hands. I can comfort you with my own two hands. But you got to use your own two hands. Use your own two hands. Use your own two hands. With our own two hands. With our own two hands. With our own two hands. Have you ever seen the sky so beautiful, colorful, wide and wonderful? Have you ever felt the sunshine so brilliantly raining down over you and me? Have you ever wanted more? Wanted more? You've got to keep your mind wide open. All the possibilities. You've got to live with your eyes open. Believe in what you see. Think of all the days you've wasted worrying, wondering, hopelessly hoping. Think of all the time ahead. Don't hesitate, contemplate. No, it's not too late. Have you ever wanted more? Don't you know there's so much more? You've got to keep your mind wide open. All the possibilities. You've got to live with your eyes open. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, the world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, getting stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, getting stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building. We're building a new way. Yeah, I heard it. We're building us a new way. Yeah, I heard it on the front line. That we're building us a new way.
I can see clearly now the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. I think I can make it now, the pain is gone. All of the bad feelings have disappeared. Here is the rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. Look all around, there's nothing but blue skies. Look straight ahead, there's nothing but blue skies. I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. 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 Ooh, it's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. Yeah, gonna be a bright, sunshiny day.
Good morning, beloved community. My name is Sonya Tinsley-Hook, and I am one of your lay ministers. We are the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta, and we are so glad and so grateful that of all the places in the world and on the internet that you could be right now, you're here with us. In the words of the beloved and so very honorable John Lewis, do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful. Be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. It is the struggle of a lifetime. Never, ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble. So with the same indomitable spirit we have been so blessed to observe in our newest esteemed ancestors, Congressman John Lewis and the Reverend C.T. Vivian, we invite you to take part fully in this morning's worship. Sing along with the hymns, close your eyes during meditation, light the chalices in your homes, and most importantly, in your hearts. And let us face this new day together. Our first hymn this morning is Peace Like a River. Sing along. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow in my soul. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow in my soul. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul. But I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. Amen.
Good morning. Welcome to Sunday morning worship with the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta, a beloved community that changes lives. Wherever you are from, whomever you love, and whatever path you are on, You are welcome here. Check out UUCA's website and the weekly update email for ongoing updates about our Sunday live-streamed worship and other programs we will bring right to your home. Join us on Wednesday for a Wednesday Rewind as we re-air Dr. Tony Stringer's sermon, Be It So Resolved. We know many of you weren't able to connect to last week's service and missed this powerful sermon. After the video, we'll offer a guided discussion with Tony and provide a chance to connect with each other socially. Attention parents with young children. We know the pandemic has created quite a unique situation for you, juggling more responsibilities every single day of the week. That's why UUCA is starting a parenting support group dedicated to sharing, listening, and cheering one another on during this unique and challenging time. If you're interested in taking part, please contact Kate Sweeney. Her email and the Zoom link is going into the chat now. And join us for the first virtual meetup this Thursday, July 23rd, from 7:30 to 9 p.m. We are excited to invite you to our Zoom Room social hour happening immediately following the service. If you have not already, please sign up to get an invitation to the Zoom Room social hour by following the link in your weekly update or the link provided in the live stream chat. And through our live chat, we can express love and care for one another. Please take a moment now to welcome each other, and especially to welcome anyone who may be visiting into this morning's worship. And now, as Sonya lights our chalice, let's say our chalice lighting words together. May the light of this flame illuminate our tradition of seeking, invite all who yearn for acceptance, and ignite our passion for justice and peace.
Hold on to me as we go, as we roll down this unfamiliar road. And although this wave is stringing us along, just know you're not alone. We're gonna make this place your home. Settle down, it'll all be clear. Don't pay no mind to the demons, they fill you with fear. The trouble, it might drag you down. If you get lost, you can always be found. Just know you're not alone. We're gonna make this place your home. Ooh, ooh, ooh. trouble, it might drag you down. If you get lost, you can always be found. Just know you're not alone. We're gonna make this place your home. And now we will have our movement prayer.
Okay, listo. We are Elizabeth and Penelope Schreibfetter to share the movement prayer. First, we bow to honor the spirit of life. We lift our arms and embrace the gifts of spirit. We bring these gifts unto ourselves with gratitude and breathe and smile. We share these gifts with the world. We remember to be present. Honor, embrace, gratitude, share, be present.
Mass.
Our music for meditation this morning is How Could Anyone? How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Let us put hands upon hearts. Feel that warm connection. Let love in this moment flow. Say to yourself silently, I will love myself. I will love others. And that love will heal the world. Today we mourn with millions across this nation at the loss this week of Reverend C.T. Vivian and Congressman John Lewis. Reverend Vivian was 95 and Congressman Lewis was 80 years old. Like all of us, they had but one precious lifetime. We are immensely grateful that each of these men chose to dedicate their one lifetime to the cause of freedom, justice, equality, and human dignity. Each man suffered physical assault and abuse in service to this cause. Beaten and bloodied, each rose and rose again, their brave and compassionate spirits undaunted. They rose again and again, and in so doing, they changed a nation. Their legacy will be with us and will continue to inspire for generations to come. At this time, we hear the joys and sorrows of this congregation. Please hold Kay Johnson and Terry Carpenter in your thoughts. Kay and Terry's brother, Robert, died July 15th. Robert was in hospice at his home in Michigan. Cards and emails are welcome. Our thoughts are with Robin Stinson and Kevin James in their loss. Robin's mother, Jackie Stinson, died Monday, July 13th. She was 83. She had been in hospice care after a long illness. Robin and Kevin are comforted that they were able to be with her during her last days. Cards, emails, and calls are welcome. You are invited to say out loud or enter the names of people you are holding in your heart this morning into the live stream chat. Type or say their names now and bring them into this holy community. As humans have gathered for millennia, so we gather on this day to gently surrender to something beyond ourselves, to humbly acknowledge our mistakes, to ask forgiveness, to seek hope and renewal, to honor the earth that sustains and supports us, to remember that all beings are inextricably and mysteriously connected. Now we still our bodies and still our minds. We take one big breath and we exhale. We relax into this space that our intentions make sacred. We enter into the wise silence.
This morning's reading is from My Grandmother's Hands by Resmaa Menakem. As I write these words in early 2017, America is tearing itself apart. On the surface, this war looks like the natural outcome of many recent social and political clashes, but it's not. These conflicts are anything but recent. 156 years ago, they spawned the American Civil War. But even in the 1860s, these conflicts were already centuries old. They began in Europe during the Middle Ages, where they tore apart close to 2 million white bodies. The resulting tension came to America embedded in the bodies of Europeans, and it has remained in the bodies of many of their descendants. Over the past 3 centuries, that tension has been both soothed and deepened by the invention of whiteness and the resulting racialization of American culture. If we are to survive as a country, it is inside our bodies where this conflict will need to be resolved. For America, it is an unavoidable time of reckoning.
Where do you feel at home? Perhaps these days your actual home where you live feels like a safe den away from the world. Or maybe it's feeling more and more itchy because you've been there for way, way too long. So it may help you to think bigger about home. Where are you from? Who are your people? Beloved animals? Where do you belong? While you are picturing that place, person, or creature, take a deep breath. Notice how your body feels as you hold this sense of belonging. According to Resmaa Menakem, who we heard earlier, the part of our body that senses belonging is the same part that triggers trauma reactions. It's called the vagus nerve, or the soul nerve. It tells our body when to rest and when to fight, fly, or freeze. When we learn to settle it, we create space for healing. When we learn to settle it in the company of other people, we create belonging that can heal families, communities, and generations. Belonging that allows us to activate when we need to from the best parts of ourselves. Belonging that holds pain, allows us to move through it and grow. Many white nationalist organizations take advantage of our human need for belonging and use it to attract people with partial soothing that really amounts to stoking trauma. But Menakem says, we will not end white body supremacy or any form of human evil by trying to tear it to pieces. Instead, we can offer people better ways to belong and better things to belong to. I believe UUCA is such a place, and money is one of the main currencies through which we build it, keep it here, and nurture it. So I invite you to head over to uuca.org/give for all of the ways you can support this community. Our musical selection is a song written by 2 of my high school classmates, a little taste of my New England home, to which I am returning soon, and I'm so delighted that Sonya and Jeep are helping me share it with you. This morning's offering will now be given and gratefully received.
Back when I was young enough to know from where I came, I saw my love be spat upon and shouted down in shame. Well, I hung my head and shed a tear when I went to change my name. But his honor told me, don't you fear, because it always ends the same. It always ends the same, he said, it always ends the same. Oh, remember, dear, this too shall pass, and it always ends the same. Well, I was feeling so alone when the congregation sang of Jesus Christ and Lucifer and the price that I would pay. But the preacher told me not to fear, for they know not what they say. Yeah, the history is on your side, and it always ends the same. It always ends the same, he said, it always ends the same. Oh, remember, dear, this too shall pass, and it always ends the same. Now the fishes on the TV fly in circles all the same, like little children terrified by what they can't explain. But when the suburb and the sky are both awash in flame, oh, the television won't survive, and it always ends the same. It always ends the same, you know, it always ends the same. Oh, remember, dear, this too shall pass, and it always ends the same. It always ends the same. Always ends the same. Remember, dear, this too shall pass, and it always ends the same. And when I'm finally old enough to learn to play the game, oh, the dinosaurs will roam the earth and resume their bloody reign. But when I hear their victory song, I will hum the old refrain. No life can live forever on, and it always ends the same. It always ends the same, you know, it always ends the same. Oh, remember, dear, this too shall pass, and it always ends the same. It always ends the same, he said, it always ends the same. Oh, remember, dear, this too shall pass, and it always ends the same.
And now, please join me in the dedication of the offering to the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action we call community. We dedicate our lives, and these are offerings. Before I begin, I want to give a heads up that I will be talking about trauma in this sermon. I hope most of you will be able to move through this uncomfortable topic with me, but if you think for you this will cause harm, please take care of yourself however you need to. My family name is Shenstone. My ancestor, Benjamin Shenstone, the E was added later to make us sound more distinguished, Shenstone. He was a religious man. Having arrived on this continent from England one Saturday in 1832, by Sunday he had not only found a church, but formed an opinion of it. Hungry, but had no meal, he wrote. Large place, like the construction of the pulpit, do not approve of the entrance being same end as pulpit, and so near to it. It amuses me to think that Benjamin's strong opinions about coffee hour and architecture somehow presage my family finding a home in Unitarian Universalism, although he himself seems to have been Baptist and would probably be appalled. At one point, his wife vetoes letting their son apprentice for a printer because the printer is Universalist. So nearly 200 years later, I find myself in another pulpit, given free rein to speak my piece as I depart Atlanta after 10 years in this congregation, headed off on my own adventure of becoming a minister. I will strive to be less gruff than my ancestor in sharing my thoughts with this congregation. As I embark, I want to talk about belonging and why it's so important in our work, personally and as a congregation, to heal racialized trauma. I'm going to put this in the context of my own search for belonging as a white person who feels deeply called to healing, in general and around racism specifically. This call to healing is at the core of my call to professional ministry. I reread my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather's diary in response to guidance from Resmaa Menakem, who we heard earlier. Menakem is a trauma therapist who has served military contractors in Afghanistan, among others. He focuses on healing for Black bodies, white bodies, and police bodies, with the hope that healing individuals becomes healing for our culture. And I should note that in this sermon, I'm going to talk mainly about white bodies and Black bodies, but I know that that is not everyone. I see you. When I talk about racial trauma, specifically that caused by white supremacy, or white body supremacy, as Menakem calls it, I'm using Robin DiAngelo's definition: the all-encompassing centrality and assumed superiority of people defined and perceived as white, and the practices based on this assumption. So not just hate groups, though that is certainly an extreme form, but also the everyday assumption that whiteness is normal, and it's normal that it should be dominant, that is part of American culture. White supremacy is a generational trauma. For many Black folks, this means stress and adaptive mechanisms passed down from surviving enslavement. For many Indigenous folks, it has to do with surviving genocide and occupation. For many white folks, he says, it has to do with centuries of trauma perpetrated by white bodies on other white bodies in a Europe where torture was commonplace, and those who came to the New World were often fleeing some kind of trauma, whether persecution, famine, or plague, or were incarcerated or indentured. That trauma was taken out on darker bodies. It still lands viscerally on the bodies, particularly of Black folks. Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Rayshard Brooks, and too many more. Even talking about this is painful. If you feel triggered, again, please care for yourself however you need to. This recording will be available later. If you can stick with me in this moment, I invite you to take a deep breath and notice where in your body you might feel that pain. If you can, be still and hold it for one more breath. I grew up with a wonderful, loving family, but in my adult life, I have wandered far from home. As I have moved around the country, trying to create a home for myself and seeing more of the ways that white supremacy culture colors everything, I have sometimes feared that since my ancestors were occupiers, there may be no place I truly belong. I suspect that's one of the fears that makes it so hard for many white people to acknowledge racism and genocide. My ancestors, especially those who came from England starting in the 1630s, profited from a system in which white bodies could immigrate voluntarily and maintaining any capital they might possess and take control of land at the expense, directly or indirectly, of others being brought here forcibly or removed from that land. I still benefit from these things because I have a white body. That makes me deeply uncomfortable. But again, naming that and feeling those feelings is important healing work. So I'm going to pause here for another breath and invite you to do the same. I want to make space for you, especially if the pain you're carrying comes from you or your ancestors being displaced or enslaved, and if it comes from knowing your ancestors directly caused that displacement, enslavement, or other trauma. Again, if you can stick with me, I invite you to notice where in your body you feel it. We know that speaking these truths is powerful. Silence keeps trauma rolling around in our bodies and shooting off in violent ways. That's why UUism is working right now to speak truth about our tradition's history that is similarly fraught with difficulty. Our history at UUCA is certainly one to reckon with, too. This congregation came apart in the 1940s over the issue of who belonged here. Though we later found ways, powerful ways, to come together in support of civil rights, that tension still exists in some form today, and it's essential to know it and name it and hold it. For white folks' part in healing racialized trauma, which is essential if we are to stop perpetuating it, one step Menakem asks us to take is to consider the circumstances of our ancestors arriving on this continent. For many of us, these are glossed over or even glorified, which makes it impossible to address what actually happened. I'm finding that in addition to facing some true parts of my heritage and holding the pain, I am also gaining some valuable tools for healing by becoming more familiar with my ancestors' actual experience. To begin, I can address not only the trauma my ancestors may have participated in, but also that which they may have carried. Benjamin Shenstone's trauma was different from that of many Black and Indigenous ancestors, but it was still real. His family spent 6 weeks in steerage, overcrowded with 29 people, sleeping, cooking, and getting sick in a space meant for 12. He was unable to lift his head for most of the trip due to illness. Seawater sloshed about as he and his wife Mary cared for 7 children, the youngest only 2. My family is fortunate to have Benjamin's reasons for taking this perilous journey preserved in a carefully handed down diary. The cause, all capitals, of my thinking at first about sojourning into America was the general and universal depression of business of every line, the difficulty of getting a livelihood and having no prospect of obtaining employment for my children. These things conjointly operated to perplex my mind and to devise what I could possibly do for my rising family and myself. Benjamin came here hoping to escape the despair of looming poverty from an overcrowded, industrializing London that had yet to create a sewer system and was regularly visited by plague. Again, naming this trauma is important, and it helps me know how much resilience my family also carries. To have gone on to build new lives in an unfamiliar world. Thanks to research from my mom and my grandpa Shenstone, I know I belong to generations of farmers, craftspeople, and religious leaders. They worked with their hands and minds, contributed to society, and connected with their concept of the divine. They made new lives for their families from New Jersey northward to Canada, and that feels related to why I felt called to be in New England, that's where I belonged for seminary. Their stories not only give me this sense of belonging, a heritage to draw on while I must also accept its challenges, but beyond that, it also validates my own strengths, the things I value about myself, and a sense of capability that I and we can take on the challenge of white supremacy. As Americans of European descent have taken on so many other challenges. With this heritage, I am better equipped not to get mired in guilt and self-pity, or to rely on those who are Black to soothe me, as white body supremacy has so often demanded they do, lest the discomfort of my white body be blown through theirs, blow my trauma out on theirs. I have ancestors who were clever, hardworking people, and so do you, whether you know their stories or not. We, as UUs, have UU forebears who are clever, hardworking, wise people. While they caused, experienced, and passed on trauma, they also passed on resilience. And that's another gift that I found hidden in my ancestors' story. Here's one story of that resilience from my family. For all his stuffiness, Benjamin had ways to settle himself in exceedingly difficult circumstances where one could easily have a fight, flight, or freeze reaction. He was constantly having prayer meetings, often with strangers he met and befriended along the journey. Passing through New York on his way to Canada, where he eventually settles, he befriends an elderly member of a congregation that is currently without a pastor. And mind you, he's only been in New York for a total of 2 weeks, roughly, before he moves on. So he's making friends quickly. I think this was maybe Wednesday after the Sunday. Seriously. So he befriends this elderly member of this congregation. They don't have a pastor, so she invites him to her home. And they have a wonderful family meal with cakes, and it sounds way better than what they've been eating on the sailing ship. And after dinner, 40 other people show up at her house. And in contrast to his usual detached style, he practically gushes in his diary. The time was spent singing and praying, by which means I discovered them to be such as I cannot but love and feel at home with, experiencing the same changes and breathing the same desires. I cannot but love and feel at home, breathing the same desires. Does that not sound like UUCA to you, like Unitarian Universalism? Benjamin Shenstone made it through his difficult adventure because of his strong family and because he knew how to find belonging wherever he went. He knew and carried with him in his diary songs and prayers that made him feel settled, and he was constantly looking for other bodies to share that settling with. This reminds me of my own journey, pre-Atlanta, moving frequently around the country for work, and always stopping in at the UU congregation. Here at UUCA, we use music, singing, breathing, moving, and other spiritual practices to settle our bodies, to calm that vagus nerve, and let our bodies go into rest and grow mode. When bodies settle together, we are learning even backed up by science. We experience belonging. Have you ever been in the midst of grief or shock or loss, and someone just sat calmly with you? How did that feel? Settled bodies can move through trauma from the best parts of themselves in a way that allows growth and activation when we need it. Activation to speak up, even when it's awkward, to change policies and cultures, to get up, to rise over and over. And unlike the misleading sense of belonging offered by white nationalist groups, ours strives for integrity, to name and hold the difficult stuff, and welcome everyone who seeks. That's why what we do as UUs is so important. After 10 years as a youth advisor, board member and president, choir member, anti-racism, anti-oppression, multiculturalism strategy leader, and lay minister, I know the tougher parts of this congregation along with the good ones. The times when our ability to settle and embrace fell short. When I've received dismissive comments regarding my youth, femaleness, or the shape of my body. The insistence sometimes that racism doesn't happen here, or complaints that people who are trying not to be further traumatized are limiting the freedom of speech of those who are traumatizing them. Times when my efforts went unacknowledged. The friends who have left because we unearthed or created trauma we could not hold. Those experiences made it hard to be here sometimes. But I have also been held. A congregant who had made a comment about my body came up to me weeks later and apologized. A friend let me share the burdens of stories I carried from working at the trauma hospital by listening without interruption. After I spoke up in a congregational meeting, party planners reconceived our building's 50th birthday away from a white-centered TV show theme to a rad 1960s one. Sermons resonated with challenges in my personal life and brought me to tears. And there's been so much singing. I have seen you hold each other too. Support groups for caregivers and cancer survivors. Calls by lay ministers. Funerals and vigils. The memorial for the Reeb and Leutzo families who lost their beloveds in the civil rights movement. Checking in after discussions of whiteness and racism. More and more, sharing and hearing stories that confront the myth of white bodies being the normal and rightful controllers of the narrative. Resolving to lead from the front, not the middle. As I go back to the Northeast to make a new home, it matters that I have found belonging here. All the love and support of this congregation carries me forward, and I am so grateful. I also go forth that knowing that not everyone feels the same way here. I have an advantage in that my educated New England middle-class heritage is closely related to the dominant stories and styles within UUism. But the more we are able to hold all the different kinds of trauma that people come here with, the more we will trust each other with our gifts and the gifts of our heritage. The more we will be able to offer belonging to everyone. And I believe that then we will be much closer to being the culture that can supplant white supremacy. Again, Resmaa Menakem's words ring true. We will not end white body supremacy or any form of human evil by trying to tear it to pieces. Instead, we can offer people better ways to belong and better things to belong to. My prayer is that you know how much the belonging you have offered me means, and how much it means to me to have been able to hold this congregation in my care, in my many roles as a congregant. My prayer for you as our entwined journeys, yours and mine, disentangle, is to keep leaning in to holding yourselves and each other. Whether, like Benjamin Shenstone in that New York church, you just arrived here in this congregation or on this land just yesterday, or your people have been here since time immemorial, hold on to your roots for yourself, each other, and this community. Try to resurface them where they are buried. Welcome them when they are unfamiliar, and face them when they are hard. Use the tools you already have, the tools that give us the sense of belonging, that hold us even when we're not sure that we really belong here. All that music and breathing and moving, use them and grow your ability to use new ones. Use them to stick with the tough stuff. Talk about what happens when we disagree, when people feel unseen. Use our covenant. Invest in healthy, honest communication, and stay present with pain as much as you can. The more you do that, the more the gift of belonging, which you have so generously shared with me, becomes a gift to our hurting nation. We will not end white body supremacy or any form of human evil by trying to tear it to pieces. Instead, we can offer people better ways to belong and better things to belong to. May we, rooted in the power of our ancestors, healing our bodies, be that offering.
Thank you for that beautiful, beautiful sermon, Mel. You can only move to another state or city. You cannot move from our hearts. We may or may not take you off the lay minister call schedule. We love you. Thank you. How fitting that on this morning, as we reflect upon the loss of two civil rights giants, John Lewis and C.T. Vivian, that our final hymn is a song that was made popular during the civil rights movement by the unforgettable Nina Simone. It's number 151 in our UU hymnal, I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free. Let's join together in song. I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all these chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things I could say. Say 'em loud, say 'em clear for the whole world to hear. Say 'em loud, say 'em clear for the whole world to hear. I wish I could share all the love in my heart. Remove all the bars that still keep us apart. I wish you could know what it means to be free. Then you'd see and agree everyone should be free. Then you'd see and agree everyone should be free. Want to join me? Because I'm losing my voice. Let's keep going.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I wish I could give all I'm longing to give. I wish I could live like I'm longing to live. I wish I could do all the things I can do. Though I'm way overdue, I'd be starting anew. Though I'm way overdue, I'd be starting anew. I wish I could be like a bird in the sky. How sweet it would be if I found I could fly. I'd soar to the sun and look down at the sea. Then I'd sing, 'cause I know how it feels to be free. Then I'd sing, 'cause I know how it feels to be free. then I'd sing, 'cause I know how it feels to be free. Amen. Thank you.
What a joy it has been to get to make music with the two of you. What a great way to do my last service here, or at least my last service in person here. For a while. As we take our leave, here's something you can do this week. Like we did before, bring yourself into a sense of belonging. Visit a person, place, or beloved animal that makes you feel safe. If it's safe to do so, it could be in person or virtually, or visualize them in your mind. Then notice how your body feels. You may want to start at the top of your head, then check in with your face, the back of your head, your neck, your throat, all the way down part by part until you reach your toes. It takes practice, so try and do this at least 3 times this week. Noticing what belonging feels like is a first step to creating more of it. As we extinguish our chalices together wherever we are, our benediction this morning is from the Reverend Wayne Arneson. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. We are not alone.
free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free.
We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, that is the seed. We can feed our every need.
Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, the world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. Getting stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. Getting stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building. We're building a new way. Yeah, I heard it. We're building us a new way. Yeah, I heard it on the front line. That we're building us a new way.
You are the new day, new day. You are the new day. I will love you more than me and more than yesterday. If you can but prove to me you are the new day. Send the sun in time for dawn. Let the birds all hail the morning. Love of life will urge me, say, you are the new day. When I lay me down at night, knowing we must fade, thoughts occur that this night might stay yesterday. Thoughts that we as humans small could slow worlds and end it all. Lie around me where they fall before the new day. One more day when time is running out for everyone. Like a breath I knew would come, I reach for a new day. Hope is my philosophy, just needs days in which to be. Love of life means hope for me. Born on a new day. You are the new day. You are the new day. shine. Let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All through the night, I'm gonna let it shine. All through the night, I'm gonna let it shine. All through the night, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Shine, let it shine. Oh, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Take this light around the world, I'm gonna let it shine. Take this light around the world, I'm gonna let it shine. Take this light around the world, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Walk down that lonesome road all by yourself. Don't turn your head back over your shoulder, and only stop to rest yourself when the silver moon is shining high above the trees. If I had stopped to listen once or twice, if I had closed my mouth and opened my eyes, if I had cooled my head and warmed my heart, I'd not be on this road tonight. Carry on, never run feeling sorry for yourself. It doesn't save you from your troubled mind. Walk down that lonesome road all by yourself. Don't turn your head back over your shoulder, and only stop to rest yourself when the silver moon is shining high above the trees.
so pretty.